My longtime friend has been using his girlfriend's attachment and desire to please him to make her do more and more embarrassing things. He tried to make her take her top off for us all, despite her being clearly upset and uncomfortable. I don't know what I can do about it. My friend, 19M, makes his girlfriend, 20F, degrade herself in front of us. I'm worried for her and don't know what to do. Carter and I have been friends since we were about 11 or so. We've gone through friendships groups together, life events, etc. I'd consider him my best mate. He's never been particularly lucky with girls. He had a girlfriend back when we were 14, but it was more the friends with a label thing you do when you're kids. So when Carter started telling us all about this girl he's been seeing, we were all hyped for him. He was gushing about her non-stop, and eventually, of course, he asked if we'd meet her. When we first met Sophie, she was immediately a little off. Carter had told us that she was super shy, so we shouldn't be offended if she didn't really talk to us, but it was next level. The whole time we were out, she was clinging onto Carter's arm. She said maybe a maximum of 3 words the entire time, and she never looked anybody in the eyes. Her head was constantly down. She looked like she was always on the brink of tears and always stood slightly behind Carter, like hiding behind him. I didn't say anything because I figured she was just even more shy than he had explained. For the next little while, he brings Sophie along, and she was always just as strange. Always glancing to Carter before she spoke, when she spoke at all, and hiding behind him. Eventually, I did ask him about why this was, and he told me that she has BPD and anxiety, and is super attached to him, feels nervous speaking to anyone that isn't already her friend, etc., to the point she can't even answer her phone without nearly throwing up over it. But he said this all in a very positive tone, which I thought was odd, though I brushed it off. This is when I started to become a little unnerved, though. Carter told me that she was so attached to him and so desperate to keep him around, that she would do basically whatever he wanted without questioning it. He told us the next time he bought Sophie with us, he'd prove it. And he did. When we next went out with Sophie, he randomly stopped her from walking and told her to sit, like a dog, right on the floor. She hesitated, looked around at us, back at Carter, then went to go and do it, before he burst out laughing and told her not to make a fool of herself. She looked embarrassed as hell, and everyone laughed, admittedly, me included. Throughout the evening, he kept telling her to do weirdly demeaning things. Each time they were getting worse and worse. At one point he told her to hit herself, and again she went to do it, but he grabbed her hand. Everyone was laughing every time, and I suppose Carter was getting a bit of a kick out of making everyone laugh at Sophie's expense. When she went home, he told us that he told us so, and that she would always jump if he said jump. This began to happen every time we went out. He'd tell her to do all these different things, and every time she looked shaky and about she was going to cry, but she would always go to do whatever he asked, until he stopped her and told her to stop it, like he was scolding a child. The novelty wore off, and it quickly became more and more uncomfortable the more he did it. It became clear Sophie wasn't in on this joke. For whatever reason, she really did want to appease whatever he demanded, even if it meant making a fool of herself. After a few weeks of this, we were telling him to cool it. Nobody was laughing anymore, so he kept trying to get her to do more and more outrageous things. I kind of chalked what he was doing up to this being his first ever relationship. He was giddy, he was riding a high, so as much as I thought he was being a bit of an ass, I didn't think too hard on it. The final straw for me came the other night. We were all at Carter's house watching the game, and Sophie was downstairs hanging out with his grandma. Halftime came, and we started talking about how hungry we were. We ordered some food. As we were ordering, though, Carter started calling out Sophie's name. She came outstairs and still didn't really say much. Carter turned to her and said, "Go make me a sandwich, ham and cheese." Everyone in the room went kind of silent, and Sophie just stood there wide-eyed, like she didn't know how to react. She said one word, "Really?" and he sort of flicked his head up, in a dismissive go type of way, and off she went. We were all sort of stunned by this, and the atmosphere in the room got really quiet. Nobody knew what to say. I think everyone was taken aback. But Carter went on commenting on the game like nothing had happened, so we moved on. A few minutes later, and we hear someone coming up the stairs. Carter turned to us, a huge grin on her face, and told us to watch this. Sophie comes in, plate in hand, and gives it to him. As she's turning around to leave, he says her name once more. "One last thing. Take your top off. Strip." Sophie looks straight up appalled when she turns back to face us, and honestly, so did the other guys. Everyone's mouth was wide open in shock, other than Carter, who had a huge smirk on his face. Sophie shakes her head ever so slightly, and is biting her lip hard, seeming nervous. Carter urges her go on, and I can definitely see tears in her eyes, but she listens and starts reaching for her top from underneath, shaking like crazy while she does it. She gets it about halfway up until, again, like he always does, Carter tells her to stop and put her top back down, laughing away. He thanks her, and she leaves to go back downstairs, looking visibly shaken. The rest of the night, no one said a word to one another until we went home. I haven't spoken to Carter since. I haven't spoken to the other guys either. I don't know how to go about bringing it up or what to do. What started as admittedly mean-spirited joke has spiraled into something so much more. I don't know why Sophie is so willing to do anything for Carter like this. I understand the attachment thing he said, but she's willing to do things that make her visibly uncomfortable and upset for him. I can't explain that. I'm disgusted with Carter right now. It feels like he's levering her obsession with him, and it makes me worried for her. I don't know if he's just doing this to be a show-off or if he does similar things when it's just them. I honestly don't have a clue. I don't know what to do, how to confront him about how uncomfortable this all is, etc., and I know I can't ask Sophie if she's okay. She barely even responds when I say hi to her, let alone anything else. Since everyone is pointing it out, admittedly I didn't really see what he was doing as abusive. Being a dick, yeah for sure, but not abusive. I am taking the comments on board, that's why I posted after all. And I understand all the views saying I'm contributing, etc. Again, I didn't view it that way. But having all these responses has definitely made me realize. I'm not replying to comments just yet. I'm out at dinner, but I will as soon as I'm back. I accept fault for not doing anything at the time.